It's like
and got a good physical therapist.
one day they the other. And look at me. I'll be stoked.
Ken.
Here we go.
Hey, Joe. Yeah, exactly. How are you?
You get the invocation.
Since I talked to you last.
I don't.
I'd like to call the East Ascension Drainage meeting to order to March 11, 2019. Mr. Turner and Mr. Johnson are at work. Mr. Dawson, would you lead in the invocation followed by the pledge? Thank you.
Let us pray. Father, your word said that we ought to trust in you and lean not to our own understanding, that in all our ways, as we acknowledge you, that you will make our path straight. We thank you for your wisdom in guiding us, oh God, as we do the people business in a way that would be straight, in a way, oh God, that all will acknowledge that you are in it and that you're guiding us. We thank you for wisdom because you said you give to anyone that asks freely, and so we ask tonight as we do the people's business. But we thank you for all that you do, for blessing Ascension Parish and watching over his people. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
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 I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Anyone wishing to speak on any agenda item, please sign in with the secretary. We'll move on to number 4, the acceptance for the February 11th.
Motion to approve.
Moved by Mr. Lambert, second by Ms. Terry. Accepted. No chairman's report. We'll go on to number 6, drainage report. Mr. Joy Turo and Mr. Ron Salvo.
Good evening, Board. Go over the work orders in February. We had 54 work orders for ditch maintenance was closed out. Progressing well with the contractor still. We had just come to you guys last month for the amendment to increase it to $1,250,000. We're currently tasked out to $996,000. Leaves a balance of $250,000 left that we'll have for the next couple of months. And currently they're on B. Phillips Road and Ordagle Road in Sanamo area. They're headed towards Beco, Pee Wee Road, Alexandra Road in that area next. And then in the northern end, they're towards Demi Milley, Bird Allen, Cesar Road, and Adam Arsenault is where they're headed that way. Other than that, we have about 12 jobs ongoing within the regular drainage department, and all that stuff is moving. And we are currently working with our customer service center to move this work order implementation forward. We've been in touch with South Central Planning, and it will take quite a while to get these drainage work orders merged into the new work order system over the next several months. So that portion is underway. But we're starting in the vegetation department with actually implementing the work orders, and then they'll branch out into the larger departments within time. And that's about it for the routine stuff, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Joey.
Thank you, Council. H. Davis Cole is, well, first the floodplain. I'm sorry. We had at the past Drainage Committee meeting, it was approved by this committee to let the New River dredging project for the 2.7 miles on Thursday, February 22nd. That following couple of days, we had a plan in hand, like a follow-up plan in hand to complete all the fine-tuning of the plans. A final set of plans will be submitted to the parish in the next few days Once that's done, we'll put contracts together and set up a pre-bid meeting, a mandatory pre-bid meeting, and get that project moving. GSA is working on the Laurel Ridge levee project. They're working on plans and modeling. Kimberly Cole of GSA informed me of that. They're working on all the details. They have a full design push towards getting things going in that regard. She told me the geotech is the main focus now, along with the outflow weirs. GSA is also working on the Fish Bayou project. There's survey work being secured by the parish to allocate servitudes and right-of-ways needed to secure the work area and negotiate all that with the property owner. They're working on that. We should get that survey expertise to them shortly. She reported that the wildlife and fisheries permit is still pending, but they hope to receive that in the next few days. And then once that's issued, the Corps will continue their technical review of the project and release the requirements for wetland mitigation. BKI is working on 2 enhancement projects for the Marvin Bro pump station, flood proofing at the pumps. It's a backflow prevention. We expect those plans back from them very shortly in the next week or so. They did submit plans to us for the stop log project of the pumps. We've just recently gotten those, and I think they are to give a report as I thought they were going to give it tonight as part of the agenda. Make sure that's right. Yeah, that's going to be, they'll be here at item number 10, so if there's any other questions in that regard, they'll be there. Brian Hammett and Associates produced plans, and we have the ongoing project of drainage improvements on 4 roadways as a part of one bid package. It has to do with Savoy Road, Penny Street, Shealy Drive, and Riverside Estates. They're working on Riverside Estates right now, and tomorrow they should have another crew out there, meaning Hard Rock Construction. That's the contractor. They should have a second crew that's going to be working on Savoy Road, so that work is ongoing. It just started late last week. The project digs and grades ditches on the roadways. It also replaces pipes that are undersized or off grade. We had employed ELOS to do permitting for ditch work that we need on some major ditch work, and they made that application to the Corps using that 214 agreement that the parish has. We did get some allowances on permits to do work on some ditch cleaning and shredding on 4 ditches that have, it's been lingering for quite a while. They include a ditch around San Amo High School, New River near Kling Road, a Sam Martin ditch, and a ditch by the I-10 Airline Highway interchange. So we have authorization to do that work now, and we've actually started that. Quality Engineering and Survey is working on the Wallace Acres plans for us. We've been critiquing the project for a while. A plan in hand was held on March 7th with their design team, and as soon as plans are finalized, contracts will be made and a mandatory pre-bid will be made for that Wallace Acres subdivision. The flood damage prevention ordinance D. That's the ordinance that's required for the Lomer that's been applied for on behalf of the parish. I know this body has worked on approving that D ordinance, and I think that will be accomplished shortly, probably at the next full council meeting. Tonight, both the city of Gonzales and the town of Sorrento are doing the same. So they're both in the process at their meetings tonight, making plans to adopt that same D ordinance, which is required for us to remain part of the flood insurance program. The notices of the Lomars, we've sent about 300 letters to occupants, to all occupants affected by the flood maps. I guess the ones that are adversely affected. So those people, if they haven't gotten letters, they should be getting them very shortly. So we've notified those that's in the new flood zone or possibly in the flood zone. So even the people on the perimeter, just to make sure we're covering all our bases, those in the flood zone and floodway. Also, some extensive research has been done to identify the property owners affected also. So those letters have been sent out also. Ascension 21 has been airing information segment interviews. Martin McConnell was instrumental in that concerning the Lomar and the new flood maps. This past week and this coming week in the Ascension Citizen, there's a quarter-page ad that's put out informing people of the Lomars and the fact that we will have a meeting this Thursday at 5 o'clock that's open to the general public to inform of the Lomars, and if they have any specific questions or information that they need specific to their residence or where they live. And I think that's it.
Appreciate you, Joe. Go ahead, Mr. Dawson.
Joey, just a couple of questions on the FEMA. You said you're sending letters to people that were put in the AE zone, I presume, from
Yes.
X to AE. What about the people that are going from the A to X? Are we
haven't
going to
sent-
send any notification to them? Because, I mean, some of these people, they need to be aware to notify their insurance company or, because they're going to see a significant, or they could see significant reduction in their premiums.
Correct. We haven't sent to those yet. We just wanted to send the ones to those adversely affected because beating that May 15th deadline was very important for them if they wanted to take any action. So that's why we jumped on that group first.
Okay. So could you make a note to also inform those that are moving the other way, that are moving out of the flood zone?
We can do that.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions for Ron. If you want to come back
Yeah.
to me, it's up to you.
Yeah, let's go ahead and finish up. Go ahead, get Ron.
Okay. Ron, so while you were talking, I apologize for not giving you a heads up on this. We talked about the ditch cleaning that's going on. It's been going on for quite, for a period of time in Ascension. So I'm just trying to refresh my memory on that. So about how many, I know, again, I realize that I didn't ask you to prepare for this, but about how many feet per day or week do we clean? We have 2 crews, is that correct?
Yes, sir. didn't get it down to the day. I guess there's a lot of
All
variables.
right,
But
so
we
what
have
about
talked to him about it.
week or month,
Yeah,
or what
on
is
a week, he's averaging, between his crews, he's trying to shoot for a mile a week.
a mile a week?
That's what he's mentioned to me. We're at 90,
Is that for each crew, or is that for
no,
the
that's
two together?
total. That's for his crews.
For his crews, okay, and
And,
what's the number? I've got 500 sticking in my mind about the number of miles that we have of roads. Am I way off there, or where am I?
I think that would be a close, but you gotta think of a ditch on both sides.
Uh,
So
So is that mile just for one side, or is that both?
for the 500,
Yeah,
that's, I'm thinking linear feet of roads total, but that's not, that factor I don't think was in regards to ditches. It's just the map.
I'm just trying to get a
So I would say
estimate of
roughly,
how long it would take, how long is it gonna take us to go through the parish, I guess is the question.
I would have to, I don't wanna just quote that right now, like you said. Get some
So,
better figures.
am I safe to say it's a few years, if we're looking at?
10 years.
No.
I don't wanna go on record just off the whim telling you anything like that. I think that,
Again, and I didn't.
you know,
I didn't-
anything's possible with money and resources, but it's, it would cost quite a bit.
Well, I mean, where
much quicker.
I'm trying to go with that is that, we've been doing this, we were told when we first started, we were 2 or 3 years behind on our cleaning. That's the number that I remember. I don't know if everybody else remembers that, but that, and I'm wondering, it'll probably take us 2 to 3 years to get it to the point to where, we can start just doing it on a regular, maintenance type basis. So I'm just trying to understand, at what point in time do you think we'll be where we are, that we can just do the regular maintenance rather than this catch-up maintenance in all the districts?
That's a tough
I know you
question.
don't know the number.
I don't know the number, but I could tell you where we are. The quadrants of the parish.
Okay,
Since they've started in October, we're at 97,805 linear feet that they dug. So that's-
97,000.
Yes, sir. That's what was
20
dug,
miles,
our invoice
is
to
that right?
date. So,
About 20 miles.
it'll take quite a while. So, I don't wanna go on
So,
record.
I mean, where I'm trying, and the motive here is that I know, my district and probably every district here, they haven't quite made it to all of our ditches, so I'm trying to understand, what to tell the people that, we're still in the catch-up mode, I guess is where it is. Be patient.
I would say so, yes.
Okay. Thank you, Ron.
Mr. Travis?
Just one quick question regarding the new flood zones. Have we set those meetings up yet? I know there was some discussion about setting meetings up to inform the
Yes.
residents.
Yes, there was a ad last week that went out, and the Ascension Citizen is going out again this Thursday, and the meeting is this Thursday at the governmental complex at 5 p.m. So yes, that meeting is set up.
Mr. Sadler?
Yeah, Ron, Councilman Dawson's gotten you in trouble with me now. Is it possible that we could get what he's really asking for in terms of estimates, maybe by our next AEA drainage meeting? Looking at, see what the notes I jotted down here. How long will it take, I'm just going to use the word in quotes, to catch up? We've told the public forever that we're 2 years behind, so, and then an additional, a plan which would include a timeline for continuing ditch cleaning. I'm working on the assumption that we're probably going to continue to contract this out to outsiders, because I recall testimony, and I asked you that question earlier, that we get more bang for the buck that way than if we try to do it inside.
I think at the limits of our facility, and if we just keep growing in staff, I think we're gonna see the crunch of equipment maintenance of.
Well, I have no problem how we do it, but I'm just saying, I'd like to see a plan it's like anything else. It's like cleaning out trash out of ditch or cutting it or whatever. By the time you get to the last ditch, the first one's maybe a couple of years silted in, and maybe it needs attention, maybe it doesn't, or how that's going to work in the future. With the idea, the important thing I think here is that we never have to tell the public again that if you call a day and we put you on a list, it's 2 years before we'll be able to get to you.
We'll work up a schedule for you, Councilman.
Appreciate that.
That won't be the hard part. The hard part will be given weather and all other kind of
I
things.
understand
We'll
that.
be able to stay on schedule.
Right, it'll all be a guesstimation, and that's
But
understandable.
we'll do the best we can. Now, the roadside ditches will probably be an easier calculation. It's the ones that we do in the subdivisions behind people's houses that are going to be much trickier to estimate, but we'll give it our best shot.
Right, and, you know, I would say this to you, I'm not saying it would happen, I have no idea what my colleagues would do, I know what I would do. You might want to come with a plea, maybe you'd want to accelerate it beyond the 2 crews that were just mentioned to catch up earlier, and then to continue that maintenance going, et cetera. I mean, after all, we just passed a renewal of the 5 mil drainage tax, and so this is how you continue to get those renewals passed, is when people see results. We all know that.
Yeah, we've actually been discussing bringing on more of the roadside crew ditches already.
In fact, it's an item coming up, but I'll just make reference to it. I'm getting quite a few calls right now about Bluff Road. I guess it's Highway 928. The trash is just getting to be, I'll just use their words, quote unquote, overwhelming. I have spoke to Sheriff, in fact, just today, a new sheriff in town, Bobby Weber, about it. And I know his crews have some plans, and I know I believe we bought a vehicle and we pay about 100,000, whatever the number is, 90-something thousand, for him to have several inmates come out and do cleaning. But I think that was a good start. But I really consider, when you really think how much trash there is, even with the wonderful results that the sheriff reported previously, working in the beginning of that program, I remember on the Airline Highway, and I could visibly see it because I drive the airline every time I come to one of these meetings in Gonzales. But who knows? Maybe we'd want to expand that, but that's a topic coming up, I guess, a little bit. Again, I don't know what my colleagues would think about it, but Bluff Road's getting really bad.
Well, and I think we also need to do some public service announcements about littering, because we clean it up and they re-litter.
Right. I realize. I mean, it's sort of like, I tell my constituents all the time, they want to go out and they want to pick it up. I said, that's fine. But you sort of like are enabling bad behavior, because the litter bug is not you, because you feel strong enough about to go pick someone else's mess up, so to speak. But you kind of like encouraging them to do that again. Maybe you don't have that direct thought process. I don't know how you change a little bug's mind, other than, to me, the fine issue, which is a whole nother kettle of fish. But
got to hold them accountable.
Right, and I know we're doing that. I don't like the word guys. I think it's appropriate. We're doing that with drainage monies, because I think, as Councilman Kluart knows, correctly reported and stated in the past publicly, you know, you throw things in the ditch, it just gets washed down, and eventually it gets to a culvert and it clogs up. Tell me that's not a drainage issue.
It absolutely is.
Right. So,
Mr. President.
I just want to tell y'all that I did get the report today, and something came up late this evening. I left it on my desk. I will email it to y'all tomorrow on February. Now, we are trying to catch up on the ditches, and if you remember, when y'all passed that ordinance to go to subdivisions with no open ditches, that's one of the reasons we did that, you know, to help us catch up on open ditch cutting and digging. So we could put something together, but we did the one crew, now we got 2 crews, and we're looking at it to help catch up. And so when we see what 2 crews is doing, then we can kind of put something together on a time limit. And also we're going to get y'all more data from the service center on projects. Now the bigger projects, they're going to have little updates on it, but I mean, they got some crews that do a lot of small work, and that'll be on there where people can pull it up themselves, or when they call in, we can give them the information. So, thank you.
yeah, thanks for that, Kenny. And let me just follow up. Did I miss it? Do we have ordinances in place now that says we're gonna build a new subdivision X tomorrow Y, and they can have open ditches, or they're required to put culverts in and cover them over, which would, going forward at least, eliminate our continuing insanity of having to clean these ditches. Do we have that? Did I understand or did I miss that?
Yeah, my understanding is it's curb and gutter, but.
But it's open.
No, it's
It's, oh, it's closed,
It's
okay,
curb and
so,
gutter.
Just cover
so we get, this problem will eventually, will never end until we put culverts in the rest of them, which may
But
never
there's,
happen.
there's still ditches in the rear of the
In the rear,
property, in a lot of cases for sewer.
Well, hopefully we're gonna solve that
We're gonna
too.
solve that.
Thank you, Mr. Daniel, and thank you, Ron. Thank you, Mr.
Aaron.
Chairman.
Yeah, thank y'all. First of all, it's easy going after Bill and Doc here because they asked a lot of the same questions I was asking about getting some sort of process, I don't know, process or map in place where we can just let people know that, okay, yes, we're trying to catch up, but I'd almost like to see us divide this up into quadrants and kind of have a map from where the water drains and start working up from there. And maybe that can help us avoid some of the, we're going to do a little spot digging here and spot digging there, even to catch up. Because some areas, we may do a spot dig, but if the rest of the road isn't dug out, it's really not going to serve any purpose. It's just going to hit the next delayed, the next undug area. So I'd really like to see maybe if, it may take longer than 30 days, of course, come back to us with a map, with a plan that we're going to do these roads in this order, and then we can use that, combine that with what we have currently, the backlog, and we may realize that some of those roads that are on a backlog can't be done until we get something else done. It doesn't make sense to do it. That's why, I know we've been talking about this for a while, but to get some sort of plan in order. So I think it will also help people that if we can tell them, look, I know you want us to come out and dig your ditch, but it's planned to be done at this time. Yes, weather's going to delay in some situations. You can't go out there in the rain or, sleet or snow, whatever it may be. But we can give people some sort of timetable. We can catch up on that. As far as the garbage goes, this is we've got a new sheriff in town. So I'd make a call out to him, enforcement and accountability. People have to be held accountable for it. We need people. I don't have any mercy for somebody kicking a can out the window or throwing a can out the window or throwing their cigarette butts out the window. You got to take responsibility for it. And just because you don't want to get the fine, it's not my problem. It clogs up our ditches. It causes drainage problems. Every little bit counts. So we really need the sheriff and the judges, for that matter, to hold people accountable. And it's kind of a call to them. Hopefully they're watching, although I doubt it. I wouldn't be watching right now. I'd be out there giving people tickets for littering. But, that's basically all I have to add. I do want to tell Ron, thank you. You spoke to one of my constituents today. You're going to be sending some people out to his property. He's got a little issue with behind trailer land there, and he was very complimentary of y'all and the service you specifically gave to him, talking to him. So just want to let you know that. Thank you.
Mr. Randy.
Yeah, thanks for the update on the Lawridge levy. Short update. I don't know if we got GSA coming in front of us later, but
No, you may want to, if you want to have a question for Kimberly.
yeah, if Kimberly could come up here and give us, because based on our mutual agreement that we went ahead, we were continuing on with the final design.
We are in final design, so for the next few months, the reports are going to be a little shorter than normal just because we're doing the plans right now. We've cut all of our plan and profile sections, and we're just making sure everything's clean looking and we have everything there that needs to be present. We're also working with the geotech to review the previous geotech modeling to make sure we have enough borings in the right locations since the levee alignment did change several times. We're also making sure that the earthen design is appropriate and that we don't need to revise anything from the previous modeling efforts.
Good deal. And, I know we talked about land acquisition, and y'all did some upfront work on that, so that shouldn't be a big issue.
No, all the appraisal reports are finished, so we're just waiting to pull the trigger, I guess.
Yes, and we did have about a month ago, one of the residents back at the Lake Martin area was requesting to try to get into that area. And so I know y'all were looking at it, whether it would be
We
something
did
that
look
you'd
at
have to
it.
go back for, to look
Yeah,
at the
it would
permit
be in the
again?
it would affect more wetlands, so if there's more wetlands impacted, we'd have to start the permitting process all over again, and he was pretty understanding of that. He said, if y'all can't do it, I don't want you to start it all over again, but,
Based on the wetlands, that's why it had moved right there, and close to him, it had moved already,
yeah.
one time before.
Yeah, it was basically, there were a few residents and a couple of them were unhappy and it was either all or nothing for them. So enough of them complained and they got taken out of the levee alignment and it's hard to bring any of it back in without hitting structures such as houses or wetlands and
Yeah,
we've
because
already permitted.
Yeah, at that time, year before last, in our public meetings,
Mhm.
that came out.
Mhm.
And, so that was hashed out pretty good. And so I appreciate that. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
I guess it would be futile to ask you when we look like we would be ready to go out for construction.
I did submit a schedule, or I do submit a schedule every month. It looks like design, if we are on a consistent path as for what was projected before we got put on hold, it's about 8 months. So hopefully around October, we'll have a set for you and the other agencies to review. If the Corps reviews it quickly, then we'll hopefully advertise early next year.
Good deal. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and I got questions for Ron or Joey based on the ditch digging. I got a call at about 10 after 8 last night from a resident on Riverside, and that's very upset, and saying that several of their neighbors are upset. Apparently you started the digging on Savoy, Riverside last week, and and then I got an email, Ron, I'd forwarded you the email today from a resident that's on, I think they're on the corner of Riverside and Savoy, on digging this. Apparently it was dug deep to go recover the grade to an existing culvert that was there for a long time, from what I understand with you, Ron. So I got another call this evening, and trying to figure out whether they had noticed, and they said that the contractor noticed them, but he gave them a notice that they're going to start digging, okay? And so what they're seeing is they're seeing ditches that were hardly nothing, and I haven't been over there yet. So I left this morning in the dark, and I'll get back home in the dark, but I'm going by there. And I've asked Ron, I want you guys to go out there and get with the contractor and take a look at the engineering. I've defended that it was engineered and the grades were, engineered for drainage. So apparently there's a lot of homes with almost no ditch in front of them, and now I'm being told by the residents that, we got a big old ditch in their front yard. So I want y'all to take a look at that and get back to me as soon as you can, and let's get with the residents if we got to. And it's just like anything else, there's certain residents that, somebody's saying, well, they're gonna dig out this ditch, they're not gonna dig out my neighbor's ditch or whatever, whatever. And I assume that if you're not replacing a culvert, that the most you're digging is to the bottom of the culvert. So could you please get with your contractor and let's get out there tomorrow morning and take a look at what's going on and give us some kind of date.
I went out there late this morning.
Good deal.
And
let me know.
Looked at a couple of locations on it, then I looked at the plans afterwards. What I had noticed, and I'm just reporting what I see.
Well, that's what I'm asking for.
On there was 2 existing pipes. The part that they started on is is on Riverside Estates. That would be the south side of the road. That's where they started first. That ditch, the corner ditch that you're talking about at the corner of Riverside and Savoy, that's very close to the outfall. The outfall is that short stretch along Savoy where it ties into New River. So that's the deepest part. So I understand that it is, whenever you look at it, it's a big ditch. But what I meant to, what I want to get to is that there's 2 existing pipes upstream of that we didn't change the flow line of those 2 pipes. So what I'm saying is those 2 pipes upstream of this location is at the same elevation as it was, I think, at the very beginning of the subdivision. It just silted in that much is the best I could come up with, in that we've got 1.5 to 2 foot of cut to get to the existing flow line of a couple of pipes out there. Also, the fact that there's some metal pipes and there's some concrete pipes out there tells me that some of the driveways were put in after the original building of the subdivision. One reason why this project is important is some of those driveway pipes put in at a later date was set too high. And you know, like whenever you have a ditch with one pipe too high, it messes everybody up upstream. This project is going to correct that part. But the bottom line is you do, like those 2 pipes that I saw that we did not change the grade, best I can tell. If you follow that down at a reasonable slope, going all the way to New River, which is down Riverside, taking a left, which would bring you south going into New River, it's not a steep drop. It's a gradual, you know, what you would normally, it's like 0.15% of a slope. So it's a normal slope, but I do understand that the residents, you know, whenever you look at the ditch, it's a big ditch. You know, it's 1.5 to 2 foot deeper than what they've had for the past umpteen years. But my best estimation from looking at what's out there, it's the way it was way back whenever it was originally built. I don't see any evidence otherwise.
So you're saying on the high culverts that you feel like were put in later, there's plans to change them out and relocate them on grade?
All the one, yes, we're putting them all on there. But like I said, I did find 2 pipes there that is exactly or very close to the same elevation. The planned grades are at the nearly the same elevation as it was existing. So with that, you've got to follow that down and let it flow into New River. And the result is we've got areas where we're taking out 1.5 feet, 2 foot of dirt to get that water to flow. And we're replacing all the pipes in that area. Any of them, they're all going to be set on grade. They're all going to have a nice continuous flow to where it'll drain. And that's the gist of the project. That's what the project's about, is to take all these high ditches out and any culverts that are undersized or off grade to correct all of that.
All right.
And I'm going to continue, you know, to look at the project to see if there's anything, you know, strange with it. But I don't, in order to accomplish what you need to accomplish, you know, it does make for some pretty deep ditches in some cases.
Okay. I mean, I got residents that I represent that are very concerned. Okay, they're concerned about holding water, mosquitoes, concerned about small children and elderly people falling in the ditch and drowning, and, you know, several concerns.
Well, I would think this would fix the mosquito part and all that, because you should have less standing water than what you've had in the past. Now, it is a bigger ditch, you know, a bigger ditch is, I guess you could say, more hazardous than a shallow ditch.
Well, if the ditch was 1.5 feet above what the grade should have been, it probably didn't have any standing water. Somebody else might have had some, but they didn't. Maybe. Okay. Also, concerns about there's people that's on that lane that have covered the ditch and that we don't have plans on doing anything with it. Yes. And I don't know what they mean. I hadn't investigated it. Just less. I had a call at 8:10 last night. Another email today and a call this evening before I came in. And, you know, it's 2 residents total that called me but talked about the neighborhood, and that's a close neighborhood. They've been hit hard, Buxton Subdivision, Savoy Road, and, you know, and Riverside hit pretty hard in that 2016 flood like everybody else. And I guess with that culvert on Savoy being plugged all the years, everything there had to go all the way back to Black Bayou. where it should have had a short path going to New River. They got a concern, so you quantified engineering-wise, and you're qualified to do that, and you'll hire engineers, that they got a concern that if you got a big ditch, the water comes in fast on them, okay?
Right.
All right? And it'll probably leave out fast if it goes out, so you're talking about mainly the main concerns that I've got calls on, not on Savoy Road down there, not on Buxton, but on Riverside, which is a pretty little pristine neighborhood that, you know, the people kept up their places, and they got, probably ended up at small ditch swells, from everything I can remember being around there for years. And now they pretty much got a ditch, you know. So I'm asking that y'all take a look at what you engineered, make sure that the contractor's following engineering, and we gotta be able to explain to people that what we're doing is good. We're not just sitting here wasting taxpayers' money, you know, digging where we could probably be digging and doing better. And I'm not complaining as a councilman of District 6, because I got a lot of other places in District 6, they're waiting for you to clean the ditch, okay? I'm bringing their concern, I represent these people, I'm bringing their concern to you guys, to management of this department.
Councilman, thank you for your comments, and we'll go out there tomorrow and take a look and make sure that we're doing the best that we possibly can for the public. I will say that we will spec out pipe for those homeowners if they want to cover their ditches and put pipe in and do all that. Now, we can't buy the pipe for them, but we can spec it all out and the dirt will be there, so it'd be a relatively simple matter for them to put pipe in the ditches, and we could help them with that.
I just want y'all to take a look at it, and I'll furnish you guys with the contact information of the people that I've got complaints from, and to where y'all can contact them personally, and you probably spend more than a half hour, 15 minutes I did on the phone. Like I said, I will go out there, try to get out there in daylight and see it.
I'll be glad to meet with them, get with them tomorrow. And we do have a, that resident inspector that's out there also.
So you got somebody checking grade?
Yes.
Yeah, that's, figured that. I guess I got, on Morganboro Pump Station, I got the information. Thank you.
Ms. Terry?
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman. All my questions have been answered.
Yeah, Ron, you and I talked about that. Might be on, we might bring that to the next meeting about Janelle Street. You want to bring that next?
Yes, sir. That'll actually be at you guys' next council meeting.
It's coming to the next council meeting,
It's
okay.
gonna be a bid that went out, and
Yeah.
I believe it'll have to go to the next bidder due to some qualifications that the
Right.
contractor couldn't adhere to.
Just want to give the residents why we are delaying on, finishing that job up.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. As far as the, the road ditches, when we first started hiring these individuals, it wasn't to do every foot of road. It was more or less some catch-up, some of the major roads to try to catch up on so we could get ahead and y'all could take over from there. Because I don't think money-wise, to do 600 miles of road both sides, you're looking at probably over $40 million if we in $1 million range now, I think it was just to get us a head start, from what I remember.
Yes, sir. We are seeing some impacts on the work orders. Like Mr. Williams said, we'll talk about it here and bring you guys something back to kind of give you a clear picture of the impacts. We are seeing some results on the work order list on the road work going down with the work that's happening. And I think that over time, like you said, the work orders are one thing, but the whole maintenance of the whole parish is huge.
Correct.
So there's definitely two distinct different things, and we'll be getting back with you on that.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Mr. Johnny?
Yeah, Ron, just quickly, a couple items. On Ardeggle Road, constituents say they're tickled pink with the way the ditch clearing and digging out is going. A couple of them have asked to have their culverts blown out because the ditch, when it rained, the ditch is filled up, but it wasn't. A couple of culverts were, impeding the drainage. So I think there's a work order in, or I think I saw a report from Citizens Citizen Service Center saying investigating or something like that. So it's just a matter of getting to it. I'll follow up with them and see what got done or hasn't got done. I'll get back with you. The other question is on, I got a constituent on Louisa Street, and I was wondering when y'all might get to them.
I don't have it right off. I'd have to look it up and see where they at with it. The culvert cleanout is standard. We let them go in. That's not in the contractor scope to go blow out the pipes.
That's what we do, huh?
We do have the truck that does that. We have another one out to bid right now.
Okay.
We normally have 2 in our fleet. We're down to 1.
Okay.
But, yeah, that is a pretty good service that we have to do all over is we try to make pipes work.
Sure.
I mean, the budget, we can't change everybody's pipes out, but if we can make water flow, we make it flow.
Good.
And that's,
No, I'm not complaining, I'm just complimenting you on what's been done so far, and
well,
just keep up
they
the good
certainly
work.
have it in routine. After every one of his tests, they go behind with the pump truck and clean out the pipes after, so.
Good.
They do follow up with that.
That's all. Thank you.
Real quick, Ron, on Wallace Acres,
Yes.
the completion, exactly when can we start?
We met with Quality last week. We actually met with them 2 or 3 times already, going back and forth over the bid package and the specifications. And when you take it and go out in the field with the plans and walk it, sometimes things come up that you need to adjust. And we feel like we've got the last round of adjustments ironed out last week, and we should any day now be getting the final from them. We've already done our end on purchasing for is getting the finance and the budget approved to bid it. So we're just waiting on those final plans, and then we'll be in touch with purchasing to line up dates for advertisement and bidding that. So we're on the way to getting that one out.
Appreciate that. I know if you walked it, I walked it also, and I've seen some stuff in the rear servitude. We really need to move on it pretty quick if we can. The other thing was all the pumps. I know pump 3, we completed the repairs on it. All of our pumps, I know we have April, we're middle of March right now. We'll have all these April showers. All of our pumps that we have are in working condition. Everything is up to date on them, correct?
All of them are. We had number 3 gearbox come in like week before. That was successful, but the engine has been down so long. When they cranked it back up and test ran it, the gearbox and all checked out fine. But we do have some tune-up issues with the engine. We have Caterpillar going out there tomorrow. That's the only engine right now that we have some work to be done on it. So they're going out, and I think it's just a matter of adjusting some valves. One of the cylinders is running hot. We're not sure why, and it could be that it's set up for so long, but we have them going out there first thing in the morning to get on that. And if that engine gets back up, we have all of our pumps ready to go.
Well, that's a good report, man. I'm glad to hear that. Okay, anything else? Now we'll move on to general business, number 7, approval.
I do have one. I wanted to give HNTB an opportunity to give just an update on their levy certification and floodplain management project.
Sure.
So Melissa Kennedy's here.
Good evening, thank you. I don't have an official presentation, it's just a quick update. For the levy certification, we had 2 task orders. One was the Lomar that Joey's already talked about. The last task order we were working on was the regional projects evaluation. And that report that we did, we gave a presentation on that a little while ago, and then we just did a little summary report, and that was handed in last week. So that's where we are on the levy certification contract, and then the floodplain management contract. We're still kind of working out those ordinance revisions, so that's still ongoing. So that's all I have.
Mr. Cloy?
Yeah, real quick, thank you for coming. You said under the levy certifications, you referred back to the Panama Conway. Didn't you just now?
That's the Lomar one.
The Lomar one?
Yes.
Okay. Where do you stand on Law Ridge levy certification?
Right now, the Laurel Ridge levy, or the Marvin Road Laurel Ridge levy existing are in HMGP application was submitted to FEMA, a hazard mitigation grant program application was submitted to FEMA to get funding for that work. I don't know the status of that, but so they're waiting on hearing back on that and getting funding. We put together a proposal to help with getting that through the process, but I don't know the whole status right now.
What is the general budget for that?
55 million.
55 million. That's from the pump station?
That's for-
That
yes.
takes care of the pump station, comes all
Yes.
the way through?
The Marvinboro West levee, North levee, the tie-ins, the Laurel Ridge, existing Laurel Ridge levee raise, and the pump station.
So what is the application for?
To get funding,
I know, but I mean, what's the match?
they put in the
It's a
total
match?
amount. They put in the total amount of 55 million, but I believe only a certain amount of funding was allocated to the
Right.
parish. So, and then to potentially get additional funding to make up the shortfall between what's in the hazard mitigation grant program, the parish intends to submit a grant application through the State Watershed Initiative. But that still haven't heard the rules to come out from that from the Federal Register, from HUD, so we're still waiting on that. But that would be the intent, that you could then get the difference of that money paid for that project through that funding potentially.
So we got an application in for part on FEMA, but do we have the applications in for the?
We do not have applications in for the state watershed part, no, because again, we don't have the rules. The rules haven't come out by HUD.
Yeah, you don't have the splits right now.
Right.
Because we've been talking about the recertification of the levee a lot of years. Okay. And I thought it was grabbing some traction a couple of years ago under Mr. Rue when you guys were first introduced to that project. And I just haven't seen any traction on it in 3 years. Okay, so I would ask the administration to keep that on the top of their list, because that's one of the few things that the improvements in the recertification of that levee and that pumping station system is the largest, the New River Basin within the parish and east side, and has a potential to help out the most people.
I agree with you, Councilman, but to certify the levees, you'd have to recertify the existing, bring it up 3 feet or whatever it is, and the new one, and then the pump station levee around it. But I mean, that's what we had tasked them to look at. We went to Washington, and everybody we talked to, we're trying to find out what the rules are, just like she said, and they're not out yet, but hope to be out shortly on getting some of that 1.2 billion.
Yeah, and, I'm gonna go ahead and speak for the past council member, Shake Snyder, that, if we know where our low points are and where our weak points are in the Laurel Ridge levee, is that we should be able to permit, maybe under the maintenance, I don't know if it's 404 or whatever, but we should be able to put some kind of project together based on our budget without outside funding to make some improvements to that levee and shore that up. So 55, we sit and, like we do on a lot of things, and we wait for the total 55 million to come in for the big project, and then of course you got 3 years before it's actually implemented. And you deal with this all the time, that, where our odds are, our chances on getting that money. So I'd ask that just stays at the top of somebody's list, and that we continue to move on it. I'm asking the administration.
I just want to say, I think the odds are probably pretty good on this one.
That's what I want to hear.
Well, because they're going to be looking at projects, first of all, that have been in the pipeline.
Right.
So this one's already started.
It fits the mold.
Right.
I understand that, And when that money is finally released, everybody's figuring out 17 ways that they could get the money and they can spend it.
That's true. There'll be a lot of competition.
And the delay in the rules coming out it seems almost like it's delay it long enough and everybody will have 16 projects that are shovel ready. So is that what the objective is, coming from the feds on down through the state? I don't know, okay? I'm not gonna call anybody out, but it shouldn't take that long to figure out how you're gonna disperse the money. And, and we have projects that's been in the till for a long time. But if you wait another 3 months, it's like probably 20 other parishes will have projects that's been in, that are shovel ready. So this is going on for months. Thank you. I just wanted to bring that up.
Okay.
Mr. Bill.
Thank you.
Come on, I just wanted to see if maybe the chairperson would want to give a little summary of last week, I guess related to 1.2 billion, or you want to wait till the council meeting?
I'm happy to mention that the lack of statement of the rules is HUD. I mean, this is a huge bureaucracy, and every one of our representatives and senators told us that they are as eager as the next person to have these rules promulgated, but it just has not happened. And the Secretary of HUD spoke at our conference. We would have loved to have been able to corral him and ask him specifically, what is the delay? Every time we asked what is the delay, we were given the excuse that it was the government shutdown, which has been over for a significant amount of time now. So I'm not sure. I'd rather not go into the rest of that, but as we address the issue of the HUD money, it's just a matter of getting it out of the federal bureaucracy. William, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
I was just going to, thank you, Councilwoman. Our conversation with Congressman Graves, he expressed some optimism that it may be coming out sooner rather than later. But he also said the governor is going to hire a program manager for the to help distribute the money. So they're in the process. I think the RFP has already gone out, so they're in the process of hiring a program manager to help distribute the money. And when the money becomes available, then the program manager will begin reviewing applications for different projects.
Yeah, and to expand on what you said, and I know that, so basically, on the federal level, Garrett and everybody else has worked real hard. So we need to turn our sights toward Baton Rouge, to the state, because they're going to be in 100% control of that money when it hits.
Every single congressman and senator that we spoke with emphasized that point.
I want to make that clear to the public and everybody that's elected, no matter what their position is, that Baton Rouge is where we're going to get our best deal right now.
You're 100% correct.
They did their work up there to get it down.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, for that.
I do have one thing to add to that, though. There's no restrictions on where that money can go, and there's no, I mean, we would have liked to have seen restrictions on, it had to be in parishes that were affected by the 2016 flood. They didn't choose to put that, so now the state can give it to any one of these 64 parishes.
That is correct.
That's a bit of a disappointment for me.
Yeah.
It is for me
Likewise.
also, sir.
Yeah, likewise, it was a disappointment for all of us, but we were told, as William stated, as Bill has said, by each and every one of our representatives up in Washington, that it is in the hands of the governor. And so as all of you have said, the critical issue is going to be to speak to our delegation here and to put a lot of emphasis with them on what we need. And then that's the best we are going to be able to do. And in a political year, I'm afraid that it's going to be a challenge. So we're going to really need to work hard with our delegation to put some emphasis on where these projects need to be addressed.
Well, I think just one last comment. I think it is important that we're prepared. We started on this months and months ago. We've got our projects here. We can do our, cost benefit. We can do a lot of different things, and we're ready. When they're ready, we're ready. So I think maybe that gives us a leg up, but, kind of gives us a leg down that we.
Included with all of them.
I'll have to stop there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. President.
I don't know if y'all want to do a resolution to the governor about that, because everybody knows who got flooded in 16, including the governor, but I agree that the door was wide open for the state, so that's not good. So if y'all want to do a resolution, we can, to the governor
Mr. Chairman,
about.
take that on too.
I certainly will,
Under
yeah,
you,
thank you.
Okay?
Terry's
We'll put
gonna
that
take care
on?
of that.
Okay.
We'll sit together and decide whether that's a good
I think that's
good
a
and
good
appropriate
idea.
way to approach it or not.
Okay. Thanks.
Appreciate it. Mr. Cooley.
Yeah, I'd just like one closing statement on this is everybody that went to D.C. worked real hard, and I think y'all came back with good answers. But the fact is that several of our major projects that we introduced are definitely multi-parish and regional. And we're willing to, we've said it for 6 months now, we're willing to hold hands with whatever parish and work out the problem, because we definitely had backwater flooding. And we don't have anything on the books right now or anything planned that would stop the water from what we've seen in August of 2016. So it has to be a regional plan. We fit that bill. So I'm all in favor of the resolution going forward to the governor. And our projects meet that mold. Thank you.
You was finished, Ms. Kennedy? You was finished? All right, with that, we'll move on to general business. Number 7, approval of new master contract. Mr. Ron?
Yes, sir. Approval to renew master contract for professional service for tree removal of Bayou Conway Basin between East Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage District Number 1 and Kim Spray South Incorporated, not to exceed $100,000.
Move to approve.
Second by Mr. Bill, second by Mr. Johnny. Any opposition to the motion? Not, motion passed.
I got one question, Chairman. Okay, the crew we have in the bayou, now, they working basically every day in the canals, right?
Yes, sir. They're spraying now, actually. I forgot to
So
mention that earlier.
so what I'm trying to say is we should only do task orders to Kim Spray, because after it was cleared, our crew, should be able to maintain as much as we can. You know what I'm saying?
That's exactly right, Mr.
And that's,
Chairman.
so what we're gonna do is task orders only, not just give them the whole thing
yeah.
to do.
If we get an obstruction that we can't handle, we notify them and task them to go take care of it. They do that by hand, and Conway is canopied on both sides, so they have to go in there by hand and do that type of work.
Mr. Claude, discussion?
Yeah, I just want to bring up, Ron, you was around, but it's been several years back that we ended up doing this, and we done it under some FEMA money, and we had to, use my French, but we had to GPS every tree and every stump, and it was quite rigorous and cumbersome, but we ended up getting it done. So I would assume this task that you task them with is going to be much easier.
Much easier. Matter of fact, we were able to go with a boat from Blind River now all the way up Conway, almost to Kim Spray, and then you could take Panama, and we can go all the way to the railroad trestles behind Pelican Point. So sometimes in Pelican Point area it's so wet and it's hard to get back there. We actually maintain it from the channel. You may have it growth on the edge of the bayous, but they're using the boat with the spray equipment to keep the vegetation down in those channels. And if we get reports of a tree across the channel, that's where Kim Spray comes in and helps us out. But I don't anticipate this 100,000 being utilized unless we get a severe hurricane or something like that, that we may have to go another route anyway.
Our last deal was after Gustav and Ike, so that's when we done it.
All right, we have a motion and second. Any other discussion? If not, motion passed. We'll move on to number 8, approval. Ron?
So approval to renew the CEA between East Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage District Number 1 and Ascension Parish Sheriff's Office for inmate labor not to exceed $96,000.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Aaron, second by Mr. Todd. Any opposition, discussion? None, motion passed. Number 9, contract request for engineering service. Mr. Jones or Ron?
Ms. Jones is going to take care of that.
On February 2nd, 2019, the East Ascension Drainage Department received a proposal from T. Baker Smith, LLC, to provide professional engineering services for the Pelican Point Parkway near Royal Lakes Estates. It is the recommendation of EAD administrative staff to seek your approval and to authorize the parish president to enter into any applicable agreement or contract for this service.
Move to approve.
Moved by Mr.
Second.
Bill, second by Mr. Terry. Any opposition? Discussion. Mr. Cooley.
What's the value? It's
26,000.
26,000.
26,400.
This area in Pelican Point has been a problem. And it was either, there was probably some poor engineering or poor construction at some time on it, and it's been there for a good while.
Well, that was also poor material, so that's
poor construction.
Yeah, that's where they use the floor light.
Yep. And so there's multiple issues in there, and I don't have a problem with going forward here, but you got some more coming. And, is there any point in time, and I know it's, that we would go back to the developer and hold, or contractor or somebody and hold them responsible for that? I don't know.
A good question. I wonder that myself,
And that's
Mr.
probably can't
Daniel.
be answered tonight, but there's only so much, you know.
I mean, once you accept the streets and the improvements, once the maintenance bonds expires on it, that's ours to take care of.
Yeah, and that's what we generally said for years, you know, and, you know, even that's getting old to a point. So.
That's the law.
What I'd have
I
to wonder
suspect
though,
good.
if you don't know that there's a problem in there, Cody, until sometime later, even though you may have accepted them.
Where the
I think that,
materials
you know,
approved
because
at
we don't see these problems arise until a decade or so later.
Well, Todd, you've been around a while, and Dempsey and the floor light came up.
Floor light's bad news.
Whether
Yeah.
it was bad news when it was done, or whether it's bad news later when it was found to not be the best material, you know?
Yeah.
And,
That's why we need to adapt on our construction specs on all of these subdivisions and make sure that we're doing the best and newest methods on everything. That's how you control it.
Well, we hit it big time on Roddy Road, Councilman Johnson District. Hit some major dollar values there based on floor light. And back in Parish President Morton's time, we hit several floor light hits.
Pretty much all
Yeah.
Roddy Road
But-
has got floor light.
Mr. President.
When Ascension Parish used fluoride, it was approved by the state, and the state was using it. That's why we started using it. But in this issue, the engineer's gonna check on the drainage pipes, and that's another problem into that.
Yeah, I thought theirs was mainly a drainage problem that you got
It was
there.
a combination, and that's why we chose this area, and Mr. Daniel chose this, is that this is one that'll answer two questions for us. One, how problematic is the floor light? And then secondly, there's a drain issue in that same area.
Good deal.
Sure.
Thank
So
you.
we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Any opposition? Motion passed. Number 10, we have a presentation by BKI.
Good evening, everyone. My name is David Boyd. I'm a professional engineer with Burke Klein Peter for 13 years, worked with Henry. Some more history. I'll try to be as brief as possible. I know I'm the last guy on the agenda. I was the lead engineer on the West Shore project, did all the costing for it, looked at all the different alignments, A, B, C, and D. For Ascension Parish, I created the hydrologic and hydraulic models for both Marvin Borough Pump Station as well as the Panama Canal and Bayou Conway. So, to move forward, when West Shore Alignment C was selected as the plan that would strictly protect St. John Parish, give a little bit of protection by using polders and flap gates on 3125 to protect St. James, and left Ascension out, or at least the southern portion of Ascension, the Pontchartrain Levy District felt it would be prudent for them to look at ways to better protect not only St. James, but Ascension Parish. With St. James Parish, I attended their task force drainage meetings for 3 years. We came out with several plans. But what the result was the Pontchartrain Levy District, as well as St. James and Ascension, said, we like this alignment. It's a regional plan, which CPRA really likes. They like you were saying earlier, multiple parish protection systems. So we submitted it February 27th of this year to be included in the Coastal Master Plan for 2023. PLD funded the study for the various levee alignments through St. James and Ascension, which we'll go through shortly. And these are the results, and so I'm here to present. I have a PowerPoint presentation for y'all, and everyone should have a booklet in front of you to look through as a guide. This was the cover page showing, you know, the submittal to CPRA. This was the West Shore project where they detail the various different alignments. Alignment C was the one that was chosen. Alignment D would have brought protection all the way up through Ascension Parish. Even though the benefit cost ratio was a 1+, the Alignment C, which was just St. James, had a even better benefit cost ratio. So no matter how hard we tried to get Alignment D, they went with C. So that's where we are today. This is part of the PLD funded study for looking at various levee alignments through St. James and Ascension parishes. One is using Airline Highway straight across from St. James to Ascension. The other, and that was in red, the other at the bottom is in the blue line, basically uses 3125, Highway 70, Highway 22 to provide the protection. We costed all these alternatives out and then finally came up with alternative 3, which is the yellow and pink line denoting which parish the project is in. And it basically, from St. James to the east, it follows the existing canals of that parish, puts 3 pump stations within the parish, and then connects into Ascension parishes, moving north and then following a ridge line and tying in with the New River Canal levee system. So this is Airline. I just have them broken out, the different alternatives. This was the one that was selected. This is the little part right by the where we looked at where we could tie into the New River levee system. We ended up choosing the I guess the purple to green to pink to red, you know, the one that goes diagonally straight across. Following a ridge, it was the most direct path, and it also protects as much industry and structures as possible. These are the cost estimates for that I have broken out for both Ascension and St. James Parish. They're a little hard to read, but basically what it is the initial lift would be to 8 feet, which is based on West Shore storm surge modeling, going all the way up to 16. We'd have a lift of 8, 12, and 16 to 16 feet. And for Ascension Parish, we call for a 29 cubic feet per second pump station at Panama Canal, with a connector canal tying in and floodgates tying in Bayou Conway to Panama Canal. It would gravity flow most of the year in non-surge conditions, but right at 2 feet, just like the Marvin Bro, you shut the gates and you go into a pump condition. This is the plan that was, or the schematic that was submitted to CPRA, which shows in more detail the different components of the system. Floodgates, railroad gates, pump stations. You can see the connector canal between Bayou Conway and Panama Canal. And we feel it's a good plan. It brings the levee closer in, so you reduce the cost that was in Alignment D with wetland mitigation, but yet still provide enough storage behind the levee and the pump station to have a moderately sized pumping capacity requirement. These are some of the characteristics of the plan that CPRA asked you to list. You can go through that. This is the full project plan cost estimate without differentiating between the 2 parishes. It's roughly 30 miles of levee. In St. James Parish, we have two 450 CFS pump stations and then an 1,100 CFS pump station at Blind River, which causes them the real headaches, as y'all were saying, with the backwater. In Ascension, we would have the 2,900 CFS pump station, a little bit less than half of what you have at Marvin Bro currently. And this slide here basically shows Ascension's levee alignment in this proposal in red and black. And then the different color variations signifies 2 feet in black all the way up to blue, which is 8 feet. So with the first lift, which would be about $190 million, with the pump stations and the floodgates, you build all that out first. And then for the second and third lifts, all you have is just lifts of soil, you know. But this is basically what, the amount of protection that you would get with an 8-foot levee and the pump station in place. All that colorful yellow, green, cyan, purple, blue, none of that would be flooded because you would close the gates at 2 feet and then go into a pump condition. The final slide basically shows what would flood if the 16-foot requirement that's in West Shore and Laurel Ridge levee in 2070, what would happen if you had no protection for the Panama Canal, Bayou Conway, and St. James corridor. And that's basically, in black is 2 foot, in blue is 16 feet. So all of that would essentially flood if you believe the science and everything that the Corps is dictating. But certainly, building an 8-foot levee would be a positive thing, would give a lot of protection for the southern third of the parish. What this project would do, and why we think it's a real winner for CPRA, is it would close in the system all the way from Plaquemines Parish on the East Bank all the way up through Laurel Ridge and everything. I mean, and pretty much
To Port Vincent if we get there.
that's correct. And
Up through.
it would be wonderful if it, and you never know. I know it's a lot of money. We're looking at, so for the 8-foot lift, we're looking at 190 million for Ascension, and 210 for St. James. And then when you bring it up to 12 feet and 16 feet, the total project comes to 200 and I want to say 66 million for St. James, 244 for Ascension. Now, of course, the parish wouldn't be on the hook for all that. You have CPRA and other funding sources. But this is just the initial step in getting it into the plan. You know, the study and the alignments were based on sound science. There were borings, geotechnical analysis, typical cross sections, modeling of the pump stations, the whole 9 yards. I would put it around a 15% preliminary design. What we have right here. I have the reports. If anyone would like to see them, I could give you an electronic copy. And that's basically all I have. This cost Ascension Parish no money. PLD paid for the study, and we just submitted it with the parish president's blessing, as well as Timmy Roussel in St. James Parish. Any questions?
Yeah, just reflecting back on the days, you guys have been involved in the West Shore for, what, Henry, 20 years now? Something like that, from inception. And based on when we thought it was really coming to fruition and, you know, everything was boiling up and the Corps was moving forward. And that's when we had the different ABCs and everything that came out. You know, I personally feel, sitting in all those meetings down in New Orleans and all over the place from DC on back, that we felt like there was some pressures on budgets and putting together something. And then St. John's event happened, and, you know, and so a lot of reflection went down on those guys. So we do appreciate our members and all the members of the Pontchartrain Levee District. They stepped up at that time and said that we would continue to pick up this torch and carry it and try to get it done. And so this is a major amount of work there. I personally don't understand why up front, you know, on a federal level for safety and transportation and evacuation, why we didn't just go and stay north of I-10 and protect I-10 all the way through, and that didn't happen. And that wasn't even high on the list. It didn't make the top of the list, you know. So there was a time when we would look at $500 million and say, oh my God, that'll never happen in my lifetime. Look at some of the numbers we've had in the past 3 years since this last West Shore came out. And $500 million is not the biggest number in the world.
I think, what, $770 million for West Shore,
Yeah.
fully 100% funded out of nowhere. I mean, Graves did a great job.
And yes, and he was on the state level when this all started and worked it on through and carried that torch to DC. But, given the funding sources, we have several organizations now that at least they're filtering a little bit of more money down from Washington DC through different organizations that we can tap into and work to try to get the balance of it. Do you feel good about the, what you got on Blind River? That was always everybody's sticking point. Hey, you know what you're gonna do with Blind River? And do we have any water going back into the Mississippi River?
The Blind River backflow is the worst problem for St. James in particular, because once that water gets above 2.5 feet, any rainfall that hits, close to the river can't get out, and it just stays there.
We've got a southeastern part of Ascension Parish that affects.
Same
that
thing.
Water don't know that parish line.
It's a low spot.
Okay, all of Sorrento, lower Sorrento and outside to Yea on Highway 30 and that, in the populated areas. Anyway. So that was a strong will for us to make sure we get involved in this.
I rode up for the Conway, Panama model. I rode up, what do you call it, a stump hopper?
Yeah.
All the way up with Kent Schexnayder and Jake Lambert.
You lived.
Looking at all, just going up. But one last thing, just in these cost estimates, it's automatic. We have a 25% contingency built in, so, it could go with further investigation. CPRA funds this project. We can do some more higher level design, more soil borings, stuff like that. But that's the next step.
And you said that you're looking at 2023?
2020 is the 2020, 2045, and 2070 are the milestone dates for West Shore and most of the core projects in this area. So that's basically what we went off of.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
It could be 2020, it could be 2023, but yeah, CPRA, the plan is 2023, you're right. But we built the design off of the 2020, 2045, and 2070 West Shore levee protection. And all the costing software that I use to do the West Shore, I use that same software, core software, to do this cost estimate. So if it's built the way it was costed, you'll see National Flood Insurance Program benefits. It will be a certified levee, the whole 9 yards. So that's, as an end product, that's very important.
Mr. Bill,
Thank you, Dave.
You good?
I am, I'm good.
Mr. Satterley?
Yeah, just a quick question. Mr. Boyd, thank you for the excellent presentation. I'm not quite sure, you mentioned 3 pump stations are envisioned for, this is St. James Parish. In the map particularly, it had the yellow line, it transitioned to the pink for Ascension, and you have the 2 alternatives in there. So is this plan envision 2 pump stations for Ascension or a third one? It appears to be labeled right on the borderline between St. James and Ascension, but that may go with alternative 2, right?
I would probably look at, if the PowerPoint could be brought back up, if you go further back in the booklet, basically that shows this map. This is the final, this is actually the system, and it details the different components. For Ascension, there's only 1 pump station, and it's at Panama, basically Panama Canal.
So that first map is not the final product?
No.
Okay.
This is, those were just the different alternatives. When we looked at Ascension and St. James in unison, but separated them out. We had 2 different reports. But you can see the parish line between St. James and Ascension is that black line shooting across the screen from left to right.
Yeah.
And the pump station is directly above that with the red dot. That's the one.
Okay, I'm gonna look for it later. I don't want to hold this committee up. We were just giving this to that, so it's just knee jerk.
Mm-hmm. It's just 4 pump stations total, but 1 in Ascension.
Thank you.
Any other questions for?
Okay.
Well, we definitely appreciate you, David. Just real quick, on the alignment C, how far from St. Charles Parish to St. John?
Is the West Shore?
Correct.
I think 22 miles,
22 miles?
18.3.
Okay. Okay.
Right.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome. Thank you for your time.
Okay, with that, we'll move on to number 11, executive session.
Motion to go in
Moved by Mr.
executive
Pullock,
session.
second by Mr. Johnny. Roll call, please, Mr. Secretary.
Jeff Dawson.
Yes.
Travis Turner.
Yes.
Daniel Satterley.
Yes.
Randy Kluwat.
Randy.
Yes.
Aaron Lawler.
Yes.
Todd Lambert.
Yes.
John Cagnolati.
Yes.
Terry Cazzo.
Yes.
Timothy Lambert.
Yes.
Motion to adjourn,
Motion reconvened by Mr. Terry, second by Mr. Johnny. Ms. Terry?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that our Drainage Council prepare a letter in response to the letter that we received, having conferred with both the drainage chairman and the administration with regard to the how to resolve this issue.
Motion by Mr. Terry, second by Mr. Bill. Any opposition? All in favor? All right. Number 12.
Motion adjourned.
Motion adjourned by Mr. Johnny, second by Todd. We adjourn.